So the biggest lesson I had to learn as a parent was giving up control. We're kind of all raised by our parents that we got to mold our kids to be right. And I'm sitting here with my daughter. You guys haven't met. This is one of my daughters. This is Olivia.
Hello. The sun is in my eyes.
We're just sitting here and just had something to eat. IHOP, one of our favorite places to go and to do. And it just got me thinking of a story I put in my book where I talk about, this is Olivia. When you read my book, you're going to be reading about Olivia, and how I talk about the Grand Canyon, and how when she was 16 years old, she came running in the door telling me she was going to get married. And like every parent, I'm screaming and yelling at her, trying to control her and tell her, no, don't do that. That's terrible. And eventually I came to my senses. And do you remember what I said to you?
It's Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon.
The Grand Canyon. Yeah.
And I said, Olivia, have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? You remember? You're like, no. Like, because we'd just been arguing. We were fighting for power and control over what her life is going to be.
My life, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So she's like, screw you, Dad. I'm not going to listen to you. And I said, well, what if I told you I've been to the Grand Canyon and I can tell you everything about it?
So I don't have to go.
Exactly. And do you remember you were still salty?
Yeah, I was irritated. I was salty? Who taught you how to say that?
Okay, so yes, you were irritated.
I was irritated. And keep going, you're doing great.
No, what were you irritated about?
I was irritated that he was trying to tell me what to do.
Yeah. And I said, what if I told you I've been to the Grand Canyon and I can show you all the pictures and movies, everything, so that you'd know everything about it. Would you still want to go to the Grand Canyon? And what was your response?
Yeah.
And I said, that's right. I said, now why? Why do you think you'd want to go to the Grand Canyon? And you said?
Pretty much because I have to experience it on my own, Father.
That's right. Exactly. And as I turned to her and I said, that's right, Olivia. It doesn't matter what pictures I show you or how terrible or great it is. Even if you and I went there together and stood next to each other, your view of it is going to be different, your experience. And it's the same thing with marriage. Right now, you think this is the best choice. And maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. So I will make a deal with you. Mm-hmm. You can go get married.
I'm so glad I didn't.
That's right. But all I ask is that if you go to this Grand Canyon, if you go get married, you just come back and you share with me all the pictures, all the stories, all the videos. And she kind of looked at me and was like, okay.
All right.
Now, of course, 2 weeks later, they broke up.
I was over it. No longer wanted to get married. Divorced.
That's right.
Divorced.
But I realized something profound in that moment, that it's not our job to mold our kids into what we want. They're an individual. Our job is to create an emotional environment for them to go express themselves and be what they want. And the best way to do that is to go heal our own stuff. And Livia can attest that I wasn't the best father a lot of times. And yeah.
You were awful.
What would you say was some of the most hurtful things to you that you remember?
When you were with my stepmother.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the Bible and how the Bible says in there that like you have to love God and your spouse, and then just like a list or whatever. And I had asked you if you loved Arlie more than you loved us, and you said that you were going, you were kind of, showing testament to that, and that was really that pissed me off because it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And so for you to say that in a time where I was seeking validation in your life, for you to let me down in that way it pissed me off. And it was also at a King Soopers right up the street from here, actually.
Yeah, wasn't it right there? Or
the other one. The old apartment, not that one. Yeah. Well,
and there was a time in my life where I was very spiritual and going to church all the time, and I missed, here's a perfect example of trying to teach your kids something, and I missed the deeper question. My daughter was looking for validation and love from me, and I didn't see it. I didn't hear it, and I ended up invalidating her. And so what I've learned is so many of us want to avoid confronting our parents, talking about their imperfections, or even going to our kids and admitting our imperfections. And I found the best way to do it is this, like, let her call me out. That's freedom.
I get to do that often.
Yes, you do. I've made a lot of mistakes, haven't I? So,
but you also hold me accountable for my own, too.
In what way?
You allow me to talk about my own mistakes without fear of being like judged or persecuted, I guess. But on the other hand, I still am held responsible for figuring out why I made like a bad decision, and then either changing it or deciding that it must have worked for me in some way, shape, or form, and to either continue to do that or change the behavior.
Yeah, that what she's saying is, I don't try and fix it or tell her what to do. I just create space for her or ask questions so she can find the answer. Because ultimately she's smarter about her own life than I am. And my job is to help her. If I'm always coming up with the answers for her, how does that help her? Or telling her what to do? That actually robs her of her own greatness, of her own skill set. And so, as I always say, once your kids hit 18, don't ever give them any advice. It's no longer your place. Now I'm a trusted advisor. If she wants my advice, and even when you ask me, how do I respond? What do I say?
Would you like my advice?
All right, no, I say, if it were me.
Oh, yeah, if it were me, I would do blah, blah, blah. But that may not work for you.
Yeah, I never say this is what you should do. I say, well, if it were me in my life, this is how I'd handle it. I don't know if it's how you want to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's the role of a parent after 18. She's an adult. It's her life.
Oh, God. It's so awful.
You're so cute.
It really is, guys. Help.
Anyway.
Help.
There's a little insight into our history. Lots of perfect imperfections.
Yep.
And we're still working on healing them.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah.
But it's getting better.
Oh, astronomically, without a doubt.
And what's even great, that whole Grand Canyon story, I'd never been to the Grand Canyon, but we did go together a couple years ago.
Yes, we took a helicopter.
We took a helicopter ride
over the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Went and took pictures and stuff together.
Exactly. So I used a metaphor over something I'd never done, and then we lived it out together.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
That's a good memory. That was the first time I went to Arizona, to your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So anyway, I hope you guys are having a great weekend, and if you're a parent and struggling with your kids, hopefully it's a suggestion, you get to do what you think is right as a parent, but the suggestion of working on yourself, healing your own demons, that gives your child permission to heal theirs, and then give them the space to become the person they want to be and accept them. As I say all the time, whether that they want to be a stripper or a banker, it's none of my business. It's their life, and my job is to love and accept them whatever they decide, and that's something I'm always working on.
Yep.
So I hope, I know people hear, what, stripper? I'm like, that there's that judgment, and that tells me there's a judgment inside the adult of something of themselves. They're like, oh, that's bad. Well, that means they haven't reconciled something inside themselves. If we're judging our kids, we're really judging ourselves. And so at any rate, I hope that's a help. I hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am.
Toodaloo.
See ya.